and whatever, but ultimately he has been laser focused on this issue more than anybody else.
He's laser focused on that issue, but there's a huge contrast between what he's doing and what Democrats are doing.
Yeah.
While he's talking about border security and talking to our own Griff Jenkins, Democrats are stepping up their attacks on President Trump. Take a listen to this montage.
A president today who is a racist, who is a sexist.
What you did in this last election, man, we cut our time in hell in half.
The truth is, President Trump is tearing the moral fabric of this country apart.
When you're rich and guilty than if you're poor and innocent. We have a moral crisis in this country.
We march and we say we are not just resisting, we are insisting on a better way forward.
Yesterday was the Al Sharpton primary. Everyone comes to Al and says, this is what I'm going to do according to your priorities. And it's always calling Trump names. Well, the one name they forgot, of course, was patriot, which they would never say. And when you ask Democrats, is President Trump a patriot, they won't give you a straight answer ever. I don't know how this works for them. It works for their base. How does it work in the general?
It's a losing strategy for them. I mean, they're not talking about the issues. They are so busy talking about how Trump is racist or anti-immigrant or whatever name they can come up with that they're not telling the American people what they can do to make their lives better. They're not talking about health care. They're not talking about jobs. They're not talking about taxes, because what they're doing here is just attacking Trump all the time, and it's a lose-lose. You can't win by running against something. You win by running for something.
And by extension, if you're calling Trump a racist, you're calling everyone that supports him a racist. So you're basically labeling the voters that you say you want.
Right.
The motives of people that support Trump are not based in racism or sexism or whatever other ism you want to use. It's based on loving your country and believing that borders should matter.
Right.
At least when you impugn the motives, you lose the voter.
Well, and you talked to Tom Bevan, founder of Real Clear Politics, in the last hour, and he says it's not going to be enough. Listen.
They're tripping over themselves to bash the president. You just had Beto O'Rourke on the trail yesterday saying, or day before yesterday, saying that the president was similar to the Third Reich. So he's a Nazi, he's a racist, et cetera, et cetera. That is going to fire up their base. The question is, how are these attacks going to resonate with the independents and with sort of the squishy Republicans who may not like President Trump's style, but they look at his policies and they think, hey, the economy's pretty good. Bashing Trump is not going to be enough to win in 2020. They've got to have a policy. They've got to have an agenda.
The thing is, too, here, the criticism from many on the left about Trump is that, you know, he'll go on Twitter and he'll name call. You know, I don't love that stuff that he does either, but the truth is they do the same exact thing. They all get in a room together and they name call him. So if you're advocating for stopping all of that behavior, then maybe come out and say, you know what, forget about President Trump. You know, I'm going to talk about the issues and why. You want to talk about him, talk about his policies and why you think these policies are wrong and your way is the better way, but have some sort of positive message. Everything out of the Democrats' mouth seems so negative.
Well, didn't Beto say he was going to run an entirely positive campaign, according to
He did.
Tom?
And then he compared the Trump administration to the Third Reich.
Yes.
So there you go.
So promise not fulfilled.
Buckle up. 2020 is coming quick. You've gotten the real story at the border, and you got a big interview.
Big interview.
We did. President Trump, I presume, wanted to speak with me and accepted our invitation because he knows we've covered the border so much. And the story of this border is a historical one because it isn't individual mails from Mexico like it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
These numbers are unprecedented because of these family units. It's having an impact on the fabric of America, not just the borderline down in the South. I asked him about it. Take a listen.
Mr. President, aside from the wall, and I just came from McAllen, Texas, Rio Grande Valley, they're getting hit so hard from coast to coast. All the Border Patrol chiefs tell me, in addition to the wall, they need Congress to roll their sleeves up and to change these laws.
Griff, we could change these laws in 15 minutes. I could change them, catch and release. You know what that is, Democrats. Yes, you catch the person, you take their name and you release them, okay? And we're not doing that anymore, and it's just a horrible thing. Chain migration, where you come in and you have a lot of people come in with you. Your mother, your father, your uncle, your aunt, your grandmother, your grandfather, your brothers and sisters. And I mean, we had a case where somebody that, as you know, radical Islam, he ran many people down on the West Side Highway in New York. You know it well.
Right.
And killed 8 people, wounded, horribly injured 12 people. I mean, missing arms and legs. And he has many people under chain migration. Many of his relatives have come in with him. It's crazy. And then, of course, you have the lottery, visa lottery, where they pick them and they pick people. And these countries aren't giving us their finest, okay? They're not giving us their finest. I'm not going to say they give us their worst, but, you know, why wouldn't they? So we have to get rid of these things, and we can have it so easy. What has happened, though, and you've seen it, is Mexico now, for the first time, is apprehending people and bringing them back with, and this is, otherwise we're going to close up the border.
Are any Democrats willing to work with you to change the
laws?
laws?
Well, we're going to find out. I think they're getting hurt badly politically, and then once they get hurt badly politically, they'll start working with us. In the meantime, Mexico is doing a job that we could be doing, but Mexico is now apprehending people at their southern border, and they're bringing them back to Honduras or Guatemala or wherever they come from, El Salvador. They're also stopping the Mexicans from coming in. And we've had a great 4 days, and it only started when I said we're going to close the border. And I will close the border, or I'll put the tariffs on the cars that they make and they send into our country essentially tax-free. And I'll put tariffs on there, and then I'll close the border after that if that doesn't work.
So let's address that. How would you put a tariff on it when your own agreement precludes that?
Well, we haven't finished our agreement yet. So I'll put that in there. I'm going to put it in there because if they, look, people are pouring through Mexico. They come from other countries. I already stopped the money. We pay them over $500 million. Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and others. We stopped the money. Some people would say, oh, you should give them more money. The Democrats say give them more money. They're forming caravans to get people out.
I've been in them.
And you know what? They're not putting their best people in those caravans, okay? But they're forming caravans. They're putting people in. They're sending them up. You know it better than anybody. You know what's going on.
So, Mr. President, is it time to call for a summit between yourself, the President of Mexico, the Presidents of Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador?
I don't need a summit. I think we've done very well without the summit. They understand. We stopped. We're saving $550 million. And I respectfully told, and I thank him very much, because for the last 4 days it's been great. You see that whole stream is drying up. They could stop them at their southern border. And you look at what's happening now. They pulled in 1,500, 1,500 yesterday. They brought them back. They pulled in over 1,000 the day before, over 1,000 the day before that. Today I haven't gotten the number, but I understand it's a lot.
Where I was in RGV, 14 straight days of 1,000 plus, 1,400 yesterday. And this is what I want to address with you. They're releasing now, particularly the family units, to the public. In the fabric of the U.S., tens of thousands are being released and will continue. Are we witnessing the second generation of DACA forming?
No, we're witnessing people that are going to be brought out of the country. The country is full. Our system is full. We can't do it anymore. We go by this horrible Flores situation. You know, that decision is a horror show. We have to release after 20 days. And we built big detention areas, but they fill up immediately. There's never been so many people coming up, and that's because they're gaming the system, and the system has changed for the worse because of what happened with Democrats and what they've done in terms of Congress. So if we change the laws, it would be very easy. But in the meantime, Mexico, if they stop the people from coming in, we won't have a lot of people coming at the border.
News today, your nominee for ICE Director, Ronald Vitiello, 30 years in the job. Why did you withdraw his nomination?
Because we may go a different way. We may have to go a very tough way, and we're going to see, and we'll see. Ron's a good guy. I know him well. He's done a good job, but we may just go a different way, a little bit tougher.
Tough question for you. Since you've done so much on immigration and made it a central issue, we may end up, by your administration's own projections, upwards of 1 million undocumented immigrants added to the existing population. What does that say about your administration's handling?
I think what happened is I've proven to be right. If we were able to build the wall, now I've gotten the money for the wall, and you take a look at this, I hope you're covering it, because we have miles and miles of it being built right now. Hundreds of miles are under construction, and more importantly, they're under contract. I think 157 miles right now is under contract. They're getting ready to start. The Rio Grande, we're doing a lot of work there. That's where a lot of people come in. And I've shown the people that I was right. I mean, this is what's been happening for a long time. It's been happening for a long time. They didn't even put down the numbers. They didn't used to put down the real numbers. I mean, you look at what's happened. You know, in the old days, they didn't mark down. They didn't say how many people were coming in. What we're doing is the gang members don't get in, and if they do get in, ICE is getting them out, the bad ones. We have a lot of bad ones, you know, that want to get in. And when you look at the caravans, they're composed of people that, I'm sorry, but they're not supposed to be coming into our country, and we're stopping it. But what we will be doing is now our system is full, and I told our people today, our system is full. We can't take any more. The asylum is being scammed, the whole asylum system. And you have gang members, tough people, saying they're afraid to be in their country. They're not afraid. And then they'll come up with flags. They're holding flags from their country.
Griff, really well done. What was your big takeaway being there?
My big takeaway is that the president's committed to doing what these Border Patrol chiefs from coast to coast want most, and that is not only to build a wall, but to force Washington, Democrats and Republicans, to roll up their sleeves and try and do something about these loopholes, the catch and release, because that is the central driving magnet that these people are coming from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And until you do both, build a wall and close these loopholes, it's not going to get better until you do that. And the president's fully committed to doing that, although he did say, I said, look, how about a summit? Bring these countries together. He said, we don't need it.
I kind of liked that answer, honestly. And I feel like these summits don't do anything half the time, so I kind of like that. Were you satisfied, though, Griff, with his answer about the tariffs when you said, you know, I don't know that you'll be able, he said, oh, I could put tariffs, and he said, well, I don't know that you'll be able to do that because of the agreement. Were you satisfied with his response?
Well, no, and it's going to play out. He said, look, it's not a done deal, but it does in some ways undermine his own trade agreement because under the USMCA, which is a new NAFTA deal, there's a specific provision that you cannot tax the first $2.6 million on new cars coming from Mexico. So that's a wrinkle he'll have to work out.
Very interesting. You know, the country is full, he said. He talked about they bring their flags, they don't bring their best. Ultimately, amnesty laws. And I thought your question about is there another DACA coming is an important one.
For our viewers who may remember the movie with Burt Reynolds, Smokey and the Bandit, he had to go across country doing a delivery of beer, actually. But not what I was doing. I was trying to bring an important issue and an important interview to light, and we are bringing in Dan Bongino right now, a Fox News contributor and former Secret Service agent, and the author of the upcoming book, Exonerated, the Failed Takedown of President Donald Trump by the Swamp. Dan, how'd I do in that interview with the president?
I thought you did great. I mean, you asked some pretty great questions there. I thought the president had really good answers as well. And, you know, highlights constantly the president, the failure of the Democrats to assist him in getting anything done on the border. I mean, Griff, he can't do it himself. This is not a monarchy. It's a constitutional republic.
Yeah, Dan, he was listening to the folks on the ground. That's who you want to hear from. If you're a Secret Service agent, you want to, what you're doing, you want your boss to be aware of. Same with Border Patrol agents. Here's what some of the sheriffs and Border Patrol agents said around the president yesterday.
We're very appreciative of this wall. These men and women out here in this area of 2 miles were experiencing a high number of assaults and use of force incidents. This was prior to this wall being built.
Each of us have experienced heinous crimes that are committed by people in our country illegally. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank this president for doing the right thing and standing up for law enforcement in this country.
Dan, that brave woman is the chief of that sector. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, Pete, this is I'm really happy you asked this question because this is astonishing. The left, right, we've heard it from them all the time. When it comes to the environment and issues close to their heart, they'll say, well, we have to take advice from the experts and the scientists. Okay, fair enough. I'm open to hearing what scientists have to say, certainly. But when you have experts, I mean, Pete, literally experts, people who are there on the ground, not only studying the situation at the border, but living it every day, saying, listen, this border helped and here's why. Assaults are down. Illegal crossings are down. Drug running is down. The left says, no, let's not listen to those experts. Let's listen to political experts who have to run for office on the Democrat ticket next time. It is so hypocritical and utterly absurd. It defies credulity and common sense that they would continue to stand by this walls don't work absurdity.
But they will. They absolutely will. Griff got a chance to ask the president also about Democrats attacking Bill Barr over the summary of the Mueller report. Here's what he had to say.
It's all a big hoax, and the Democrats want to keep playing it because they've done a lousy job. They haven't governed well. Again, that's why I'm here. The way they governed is the reason that I'm president, and we are doing a great job. So it's really up to the Attorney General, whatever he wants to do.
Will they ever take them at their word? When will they stop?
And does this ever end, Dan? Does the Democratic reaction to this ever come to an end?
No, Jed, it doesn't. And this is the focus of my second book. Listen, here's the untold story of what's going on here, okay? Anyone who studied this knew collusion was a hoax from day one. The evidence was right in front of our eyes. The real question now is, Was obstruction and the investigation into obstruction a hoax too? In other words, guys, what was Bob Mueller doing for 675 days? He gets a preview of the text, the infamous stroke text, where the lead investigator in the case says in the text, if I thought there was any there. In other words, the lead investigator in the case knows this whole thing is a hoax. Bob Mueller's reading this. He knows in July of 2017, this is my whole premise for this book, he knows this thing is a hoax. So why not come out, give a presser, say, hey, listen, we found no evidence of collusion. Let's let the country move on. They needed something else. They needed another Aesop's fable, a myth, a fairy tale. So they invented an obstruction charge, and that's what Mueller was doing for 600 days to keep this thing open to attack Donald Trump politically. There's no case there. Obstruction's a joke. It's a bigger hoax than collusion.
So, Dan, are Democrats now, in their criticism of Barr for allegedly omitting glaring evidence, are they setting up an attack on Mueller or going after Barr?
This was of course they're going after Barr because the Democrats haven't read the Constitution. They don't seem to understand how the three branches of government work. They keep saying ridiculous things like Bill Barr is the hand-picked selection of President Trump. Has there been an attorney general that was not a hand-picked selection of the president? I'm just asking out there for the audience. Was there been one hand-selected by some tribunal from the Justice League? That's how this works. The president picks the attorney general. The Senate confirms them. The Democrats have not read the Constitution recently, but I set it up that way for a reason. That hand-picked line is making any of Barr's decisions from this point on, good, bad, or indifferent, the Democrats are going to paint them as political because the president picks the attorney general. It is a political attack, and shame on Mueller for not making a decision on his ridiculous obstruction charge. He punted to Barr, knowing Barr wrote that memo about how ridiculous obstruction was before he was picked. He knew that, and Mueller makes it look political.
Also,
it's really sad.
Also, if Barr had said something that was completely and totally untrue, my guess is that Mueller or someone would have come out and said, no, this is 100% untrue, because Barr's whole credibility and the credibility of the entire team would be on the line. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate your input. We got to run, but thanks so much.